Steve, good? No? Going? Good? Okay. All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the fourth quarter neighborhood partnership meeting for 2024. I'm Lieutenant Pazer. For those of you who don't know me, I think I recognize everybody in the crowd pretty much. Thank you guys for coming tonight here. I know it's cold outside. Just want to take a minute to introduce Lieutenant Mike Sitter over here. He's going to be taking over in community services moving forward. Get used to him. He'll be doing this after me. Good luck. All right. So tonight we're going to hear from two people. Doreen Blattner, who's the manager, public safety communication manager. She's going to be talking about the new 911 system and dispatch at the PD. And then, of course, as always, we'll hear from Chief Mitchell and probably Captain Clemente, who will give the stats for October 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2024. Okay? If you guys have any questions, Lieutenant Sitter's going to have a mic. So if you have a question, just raise your hand. He'll bring the mic over so that the people on Facebook Live can hear the question as we go. Is that your request? Okay, good. Okay. All right. Good to go.
Hi, my name is Doreen Blattner, and I run the 911 Center. I'm going to start off real quick with a little bit of the history of 911. A lot of people don't know that. In November of 1967, AT&T had gotten together with the FCC to come up with a number that could be easily used for emergencies, so they made it nice and short, and it was 911. The reason why they took that is because it wasn't used as a business phone, it wasn't an area code or anything else like that. Gina, there you go. That phone is the one that they used February 16th, 1968, and it was tested out in Haley'sville, Alabama, and that actual phone still sits in the museum down there today. Next. The 911 system in West Allis didn't come to fruition until 1991. The technology wasn't there for the city, and then when they did the tests early of 1991, and it was mostly from the landlines. So as we were receiving our 911 calls, they were coming right to West Allis Center, and that was because they were on the landlines. Now, as cell phones became more prevalent and a lot of people started going to it, they had to figure out how are they going to direct those calls. So what happened is that it would hit the tower, and then it would go to whichever county agency. So because we have a border between Milwaukee and Waukesha, those 911 calls would either go to Milwaukee County Sheriff or Waukesha. Now, next slide. What would happen is that those 911 dispatchers would have to triage those calls and then transfer them to the appropriate 911 agency. Now, going back to the cell towers, how would the cell phones know which way to point them? They're called MSAGs, and it's a Master Street Address Guide, and it's basically a Excel spreadsheet with all the lat longs of the call itself, and then it would know which directional it needed to go to. The directionals for the cell phones, next slide. You've got your lat long and your X and Y axis. That's horizontal and vertical, just the grid lines on the face of the earth, but now they are also getting more technologically advanced to show how high a cell phone was made, and that's the Z axis. This is going to allow the dispatchers to see where exactly maybe a floor person would be calling from. So next slide. As the cell phones started coming into the sheriff's department, a lot of those other agencies, they were triaging our calls. It was costing time. And it made a lot of delays in service, mostly with our CPR instructions. Next slide. And those delays some of the times had cost lives. Had our fire department been able to get to some of those callers and those people, let's say, having a heart attack, there may have been a better chance. For every 10 minutes you leave a person with no pulse or not breathing, you reduce their likelihood of survival by 10%. So that meant minutes, seconds counts. In February of 2024, West Allis decided that we were going to be able to take our own 911 calls to save those minutes and seconds. Next slide. And this is what the screen, the Allis, the automatic number location and automatic location identification shows. This is what the dispatcher sees. I just used the City Hall as the example. But you can see that the lat long is the very last line. And then if we update, we can get a better location of that caller if they're moving. We also, I don't have anything on the PowerPoint right now, but we also have a program called Rapid SOS. So as those pieces of data are uploaded, we can actually see specifically where that caller is, and it shows on a map. So it's all integrated into our CAD system. Next slide. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. All right.
Bunch of good-looking folks up there in there, ain't there? How's everybody tonight? All right. Well, we're going to give you the fourth quarter, the final quarter of the year. I don't have a year wrap-up, so I don't have all the 2024 stats, but I will give you the fourth quarter, and I can give you a little bit of background information. As I do all the time, when we do these things, I try to look at what the calls for, what all the incidents were, to try to get a better understanding, because really what you really care about, or what everybody cares about in the Facebook world, is whether our city is safe. So when we talk about aggravated assaults, we talk about burglaries, robberies, things of that nature. How does that impact the general person? Because when you come to West Allis, you want to know that if you live here, that you're safe. You want to know that if you're going to visit here, if you're going to go come to the community to go to dinner, go to a bar, to a restaurant, you're not going to get mugged on the way to and from your car. That's really what's important to the general public. So I try to go and look at to see what these calls for service are, what the incidents actually were. And as I found with my time, the bulk of my time here, that for the most part, the city of West Allis is a pretty damn good city to live in, to come to visit, that you're not going to have problems if you're just a citizen rolling through our community trying to...
Can you just introduce yourself?
Oh, Captain Clementi, sorry. My apology. I get so excited to get into these things, sometimes I forget who I am. I'm Captain Clementi. I'm currently in charge of our patrol bureau. So the bulk of the officers that are out there riding around the squad cars, those are who I oversee. So as we get through and we move through the numbers, I'll kind of explain what they actually mean, what kind of calls they were, what, like when we get into the burglaries, what was being burglarized. So, all right. As you can see, that's the Part 1 offenses from 2023 to 2024 for October through December. And as you can see, they all dropped, which is a big deal for all of us. And more importantly, you see the 0 for 2024. That actually is reflective of this quarter, but that's actually reflective of the whole year. We didn't have a homicide in 2024. That doesn't mean that West Allis Police Department did everything great, but that just means, A, we did good things. We were out there doing what we're supposed to do, and we got somewhat lucky because you can't obviously control everything that occurs. Many times, the homicides that we have are related to domestic incidents, which tragic, but we obviously can't control what happens inside of somebody's home. So overall, for us, a great fourth quarter, or final quarter of the year, and we had overall our numbers, and you'll see them as they come out later on in the year. You'll see that we had pretty good numbers overall. The large majority of our categories were decreases. So now we'll actually get into what they mean. You can see last year for robberies, we had 18 for this time. This year we had 15. Once again, I kind of went down and broke them down to see what they were all involved in. The bulk of them were either retail theft related, where somebody made a threat to harm somebody. As a result, they were confronted during the course of their crime, and somebody told them to stop or whatever, and they made some sort of vague threat, or in some cases actually, brandished a firearm, brandished a knife, which ultimately ramped it up from a retail theft, in this case, to a robbery. There were a couple of others were related to bars, where you had an individual intoxicated, got thrown out of the bar, ultimately then started a fight, and I think he actually stole then money, so it ends up, in the course of this fight, ends up becoming a robbery. But nothing, we didn't really have any real things were on the street where people are walking to and from and are confronted or anything like that. The bulk of them were related to either people that knew each other, drug-related robberies, or retail theft-related robberies, things of that nature. So once again, just to kind of go with that whole idea that if you're coming into the city to go out to dinner, visit friends, you're going to be safe. You don't have to worry about walking the streets of West Allis, wondering what's going to happen. Am I going to be able to get to and from wherever it is I'm looking to go to and encounter something dangerous? You can see that there's our map. There's no real pattern. There isn't like people are, if you're looking for patterns, you're looking for, if we have a bunch of robberies, are they close to a freeway? Are they close to a route that goes to get away quicker? But like I said, most of these, they aren't, some are in businesses, but there's no definitive pattern of how they occur or where they're at. We can go on to burglaries. As you can tell, once again, a decrease. 31 last year this time, 24 this year. Did the same thing, went through to try to figure out if there's anything definitive. I can tell you, garages were once again a big thing, as they always are, garage burglaries. There were the few residential ones that we had. In some cases, they were related to known parties or a tenant upstairs that broke into somebody's downstairs, and a lot of them are storage units. Apartment complexes where you have a storage unit in the basement, it's still considered a burglary if somebody breaks into it. So it's kind of one of those things you're like, oh, burglary, but it's not. People actually assume that somebody's kicking in somebody's door, breaking through a window, crawling through a window, something of that nature. And in this case, it's a storage unit in the basement that they burglarized the storage unit. So we did have a couple of incidents where they broke into basements and for apartment complexes and stole the coin money from the coin-operated washer and dryer. A couple other, I think it was a couple burglaries to two of them in close proximity to each other over the course of a couple of days. Probably, I would suspect that it's probably the same individual. Unfortunately, no evidence left behind, so it makes it difficult to try to figure out the who, no cameras and anything of that nature. But like I said, a lot of garages, a lot of storage lockers. A couple of things were vehicles that were stolen out of underground parking structures, things of that nature. They were categorized as burglaries also. But nothing that would give you an idea like, oh, if we do this, we don't have to worry about that. They didn't really have any set pattern or anything like that that makes it where I can tell you, hey, if you're doing these kind of things, you don't have to worry. As always, lock your doors, make sure your garages are secure. That's one of the biggest things I can tell you. We did have a couple of them where somebody broke into a car outside, and then they left their remote control for their garage right next door, so all they did is push the buttons. If you're going to park your cars outside or on the street or on a slab next to your garage, always make sure that you're putting things away that doesn't invite people. It's like they walk up to it at night, because the unfortunate thing is Allis, you'll have people. We found more of it. We've had several of them times where we've encountered people in the alleys, and they're just looking into a car to see if there's something in there of value. They're looking to see, is there an iPad laying? Is there a computer? Is there something sitting out where it makes an easy target? They go, I'll just break into this. Like in this case, we had a couple of them where they broke into the cars, popped the garage doors, and then they stole stuff from inside the garage. We're still seeing a lot of, when it's theft from autos, and we're still seeing a lot of people having firearms stolen from cars. Don't leave guns in your cars. I mean, people aren't stealing them to do anything good with them. So just remember that if you have things, lock them up. Make sure your garage doors are secure. Make sure that, if you have a deadbolt, you use your deadbolt on your garage. Make sure you're not leaving your car out with the clicker in it. Make sure that you're watching your garage and your neighbor's garage. If you can see your neighbor's garage in the alley and you see their garage doors up, go knock on your neighbor's door. Say, hey, worst case, if you don't like your neighbor and you don't get along with them, call us. We can go there and knock on their door and tell them to close the garage door. Plenty of cops in the course of their nightly duties will drive up and down alleys, and if you see a garage door open, we'll shut them if we can. If we can get to the button, or if there is a button, we'll try to shut them. It helps us. It keeps things safer. So if you see them, make contact, learn your neighbors, talk to them, and try to help each other out so that you don't have these kind of problems, so that in the future everybody is safer in that manner. As you'll see, scattered across the city. When it comes to garages, more often than not, it's going to be alley related. I can tell you that much. If you have an alley, pay attention to your alley, because it's very difficult. You got to be a little more conscientious about your alleys and about your neighbors and stuff like that, because when you're looking out your back window, you usually see which side of your garage. You're just going to see the back of your garage. You're not going to see if your garage door is open. So just remember that. I mean, they do make alarms that will tell you that if your garage door is open, or there are garage doors now that if you have a new one, it'll sense that it's been open for X amount of time and it'll close on its own. Always good things if you can use the technology that's out there to make your community safer. Aggravated assaults, this is one of those ones like we talked about briefly that people are always nervous about. Once again, a big drop. 41 last year, 22 this year. That's very significant. And a lot of them, I found, were either, we had quite a few of them that were actually child abuse related. And most of them are familiar, family members, or in some cases it was, there were discipline issues that went too far. We had a couple of shots fired in an alley, which there were two of them. That counts as one. They get two separate ones. We actually caught, and that's the nice thing about all this. When it comes to aggravated assaults, we catch virtually all of them. Of these 22, I believe we had 18 people in custody, or we made 18 arrests, and 4 were still under investigation in one way, shape, or form. But these also include significant DVs, domestic violences. So that's what a lot of these are, but a couple of them are battery to police officers, so even when somebody spits at us, that technically goes as an aggravated assault. We've had a couple of people that were arrested for those offenses. So they sit in the statistic because it occurred to us in West Allis, but it's not obviously something that you all have to worry about. It's just something that we have to document in such a fashion. We had a couple accidental discharges. They go in there too because the people ultimately get arrested for recklessly endangering or something of that nature. So we had a couple of things that you don't often or don't always see, which bring the number to where it is. But still, once again, a very significant reduction as compared to last year, the same time. So it's a matter of, obviously we can't do anything about the family things, but it's the people associate with. That's when most of these are. They're known offenders, their family, their problems within their families, they're people they're hanging out with at the bar. So it's the best you can do, and the best you can tell your friends, and the best is know who you're with, where you're hanging out, associate with different people if you have these kind of problems, or if you have family members that have these kind of problems. But ultimately, much of it we can't prevent, the things inside people's homes. But like I said, and it's a matter of, at least it came down, which is great for us and great for the different statistics out there. No real definitive pattern. And last but not least, actually there's 2 of them. We got the next one is motor vehicle thefts. Small reduction. I I looked at these, and because what I was really trying to figure out, is there one particular car that is being stolen again? Is it last year? I looked at last year's, and it was, of the 53 that we had last year, like 15 of them were either Kias or Hyundais. The reality is they're pretty much it's a smattering of all different types of cars. The only thing I did find interesting is if you owned a black car, it seemed a black or dark blue were the ones that were stolen the most. I don't know why that is, but a lot of them, they were we had several that were stolen off parking lots. We did have some commercial ones, so we had last year we had some high-end vehicles that were stolen off the International Autos lots, things of that nature. And those are the things where then they have to work on their internal securities as far as how they lock up their keys and what they do with those things. They also had, the unfortunate thing is they've had some that were stolen off their lot that were actually customers' cars too. That's one of those difficult things. But I did look at some of them, and some of them are, the interesting thing is we found out that there's been groups that they can reprogram your keys. They can reprogram the car. They've gotten a little more sophisticated. One report I looked into was kind of interesting, where they believe they reprogrammed the car. They moved one car so they could get a different car out, and they stole that one. So that was kind of an interesting. But as always, if you do have one of the cars there, the Kias, the Hyundais, having the steering wheel lock. If you have a garage and you can't fit your car in it, please clean it out. Clean out your garage. Use the garages that you have. Do the things that you can to try to safeguard your property. Like I said, the biggest other thing is don't leave stuff in it that makes it a target. Don't leave your keys in it. It's an unfortunate thing. A lot of people like this in the winter, like tomorrow morning. Somebody will get up, start their car, and somebody will drive by, and there'll be a passenger, and another kind of, hey, that car's nice, and there it is running, and they'll go and they'll try to steal it. A lot of people have remote starts, but some people don't. They just go out there and it's in my drive, it'll be fine. It might not be fine. It might not be fine. If the wrong person drives by it at the wrong time, your car may be tootling away without you in it. So you got to be careful about those things. Like I said, if you have a garage, use it. And just trying to be careful with those things. But like I said, we've had a few of them stolen off the lots. We've had a couple from underground parking structures where people they follow somebody in and they get in, and people sometimes feel complacent. Nobody's going to get into my underground parking structure. They leave the keys in, they do things like that, and lo and behold, their car gets liberated from them. No definitive pattern in that. It's kind of like I said, it gets scattered all over the city. It just depends on where people are at the time. We had a few more this year, or in this last quarter. We did have a couple of things where flock is really good for the flock cameras are really good for people that are coming in stealing cars. But if they're not coming in a stolen car, they don't pop up on flock. So we did have where we hadn't for a while. We had a case where they did several theft from autos and stuff. We didn't get any alerts that night. So whoever came in, they came in a non-stolen car, something that wasn't being flagged by flock, and they hit unfortunately, several alleys. Something that we hadn't seen in the last few recent years. So it still happens. The last thing is our thefts. Thefts overall went down again also. The biggest number you're going to see is always shoplifting. We obviously can't control that. That's just what happens. But the theft from motor vehicles, although it didn't go down, it is the one thing I think that is the most control of us, not so much by us, but by the people. And that's what I said right away is securing your valuables. Don't leave them in your cars. I was at Target yesterday, and somebody had a nice brand new Apple case, like stuck right up in the dashboard. I don't know if there was a new Apple phone in or iPhone in it, but it sure looked inviting for somebody just to try to figure out. And those are the things that the criminal mind is walking by any given time, any given location, and they see that. That's an opportunity. Any opportunity. They don't have to be going out looking to steal. They're always looking to steal. And we saw a couple different times this year with individuals. They had some on the west end, two gentlemen that were out, and they had backpacks. They were all ready, and they were hitting car to car to car to car. We caught them, which is great, but the unfortunate thing is they had done 7, 8, 9, and then there were ones that we believe are probably attributed to them, but there's no video. They're just in the same general area, and they didn't have any property that from those cars that's on them. We believe it's them, but there's no way to tie them definitively to that crime. And that is frustrating for the victims. It's frustrating for us because we know they did it, but we can't put that on them. We can't, we're not arresting them they can't go down for charging. So those are the difficult things. But once again, many of them, there was something that because they would literally, we did see on camera, they would literally go up to a car, look inside, and then move on if there was nothing in it. So if you leave nothing in your car, you have nothing to steal. And then hopefully they'll bypass you. Doesn't mean they always will, and there's always the debate of, do I leave my car unlocked? Do I lock it? If I lock it, they break a window to see if there's something in it. It is a difficult dilemma, if you will, how you want to do it. I would choose to lock my car and leave nothing in it. But that's kind of up to the person. So theft from buildings, it dropped. But other than that, I mean, a lot of them stayed the same. We're not seeing as many years, for the last couple of years. We had a lot of catalytic converters being, sawed off. That has not been as prevalent as it has in the past. Just one of those things. I think part of it is different, the places that they would have to go and turn them in are doing the right things and not accepting them. If the place that you need to get rid of them to get money doesn't want them anymore because they don't want the hassle from the police, then you end up, it drives down some of the need or some of the locations that they can get rid of them. Overall, for us, for the patrol side of it, we had a pretty good year. We made just shy of 9,000 traffic stops. So we're still out there hitting things hard at night. If you're doing illegal things in the evening, you can expect that the cops are out there on patrol trying to find you. And if you're doing something illegal driving, they will stop you. If they notice things that allow them to make a search, they will search your car, they will search you, they will arrest you. If you have a gun that you're not supposed to, you can guarantee you will find yourself in the back of a squad car very quickly. They are very aggressive in what they do, and it has helped. I believe that's part of the reason some of these numbers come down, because if you know that the West Allis Police Department will stop you, they will search you, they will arrest you, are you going to come here, or are you going to go to an easier target? I'm going to go to an easier target. I'm going to go someplace else that isn't going to do their job. And that's what we really try to make sure that the officers are out there trying to be proactive, trying to be in alleys, trying to drive down the side streets and make sure that they're seen, and that the individuals that might commit crimes are getting stopped as they're driving in versus driving in, getting out, and having us get the reports after. So, like I said, overall, the numbers would bear it that things were good for the last quarter. But like I said, more importantly for us, we're still out there trying to be proactive, trying to do what we can to try to lower the numbers. I'll defer to the chief if he has any. Well, you stood up. I'm like, I think he wants to.
Take questions.
Oh, well, I like to get up. Chief Mitchell, everyone.
All right, we're at the, don't leave.
I'm not gonna.
We're at the time of the night where if you have any questions, or Steve, if anybody online has questions, which they don't, we'll gladly go ahead. Oh, wait, we're gonna learn and we're gonna use the actual microphone we have. That way they can hear online.
Okay. What I've been seeing a lot lately, and this has to do with crimes, is license plates defigured. I have a picture of a license plate I can show you, and I'll just show you what I'm talking about. And this can be a problem when it comes to crimes, because I saw a crime once, and I couldn't report it because, oh, here it is.
Yeah.
You can't report it because you can't see it. And that's a problem, because I see it a lot, and I actually saw a crime, and I couldn't call it in because
So there's actually,
I couldn't read it.
so about a year ago, ballpark, a little over a year ago, the state of Wisconsin passed a bill that will lead to the replacement of all license plates because of that issue. So she's talking about the plates that you can't see the letters or the numbers or,
Well, not only that, but you've got the dark covers now.
yep.
That's a problem.
And you can,
You
you,
can't even read those.
so you will or can get stopped for whether the plate is unreadable or you put a cover over the plate to make it unreadable. If the plate is unreadable because of the way it was manufactured, the
I haven't
police,
seen anything like that.
no, that, your photo there, that's strictly because of how that
That's a
plate was
serious
made.
issue.
Yep.
Because I saw a crime and I couldn't even report it because,
And that's how the bill is meant to address. It's requiring people to replace their plates on a set cycle just to get away from
because I
that.
work in the medical field, all
Yep.
3 shifts, and I see it all the time.
Yep, it's a
and
common
It
issue.
bothers me.
That's not something that they defaced, they didn't do that.
Well,
That's,
yeah.
there's a bad batch of plates out there from years ago that.
I don't
that-
know who,
Yeah.
if it's.
It's the way they're made.
Yep,
Some look like they're painted. I mean,
Yeah.
Seriously, some,
yeah, no.
but anyway, that's.
But, and the
my
bill
opinion,
got
everyone.
into the weeds
Who knows?
and talked about how a license plate will be made.
Right.
So the next manufacturer, which I believe is 3M, has very specific criteria that they must meet to manufacture a plate for the
My
state.
question also is, why aren't these people going to the DMV and
Um,
saying,
They don't care.
Yeah,
well, they should, or they should
Yeah.
get fined?
Yeah, but
Sorry,
the-
everyone, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, it's just, there's lots of, I mean, the reality is the manual is filled with reasons we can
you gotta
stop
stand over here or they're not gonna hear you.
The manual's filled with reasons we can stop you, and we can't stop everybody for every reason. And we do stop, and I can tell you in definitive terms, we have, and we do stop people for license plate covers that at night where you can't see the plates. And we have stopped people, because I've read the reports, for the exact reason that you're bringing up. We have stopped cars for that reason, because they couldn't read the license plate.
I mean, I'll delete this picture,
Yep.
but I just
Nope.
wanted to show you.
Yeah.
Yep, it
It's-
makes sense.
Yep.
Because I was going to write to you guys anyway.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a legitimate issue, and but it's a matter of, it was a defect in the product, it's not somebody like trying to commit a crime, that they're altering it to try to get away something. They are literally, the license plate, the paint is just peeling off. It's either fading or peeling off.
Some did look like that.
Yep, that's the majority we see. Like, you'll see half a plate that doesn't have any paint left on it, or the lettering might be worn off. It was a problem with the plates.
I think Alderman wrote,
Can Flock read those?
you gotta talk into the microphone or people can't hear you.
I'm actually going to defer that question to the master over there of Flock, Captain Byer. Can Flock read them?
Can Flock read those plates?
The answer from over there was yes, we believe they can. Any other questions? Yes.
You should just stay standing, Mike.
I just have a question about red light runners. Is there anything you can do about that? I know there's that on Highway 100 in Cleveland, there've been several, like
Yep.
2 or 3 accidents in the last couple of months that involved somebody running a red light and hitting somebody. Is there anything to do?
We do issue tickets for that. We have had special traffic enforcement initiatives that we started probably about 4 or 5 months ago, focusing on things like that. The reality, you look at society, there's probably 10 times as much of that now as there was 20 years ago. But we do, if we see it, we give a ticket for it, and it's important that we do.
Just so you know, on 102nd and National, it happens all the time.
Oh, my
All the
guess
time,
would
'cause I
be,
have to
you could go to any red light in this city, and you'll see it. That's my guess.
And like the chief said, we probably, I think, maybe June or July, we started to try to put more squads out just to try to deal with aggressive driving, whether it be red light violations, stop sign violations, speeding on certain areas. And right now, we just hit a lull right now, just with the different holidays and trying to hit the staffing and stuff of that nature. And we will pick it back up in the next month or two, where we'll be back out there just trying to do the initiative based on those things. And those are extra officers, not officers that are on patrol taking calls. They're literally out there for 3 and 4 hours just doing traffic for those 3 and 4 hours. And usually I try to get between 2 and 4 officers each period that we do that for, because if I just do one at a time, just because of manpower, it doesn't have the same effect as if we can go out there in groups and say, all right, we're going to hit these 3 areas. We have our traffic investigators who handle all our crashes, or the bulk of our crashes. We have them look at the data, try to figure out, are there areas in our city where we've had a lot of crashes that have been contributed to either light violations, stop sign violations, or we just look at areas in which we've already written a lot of tickets for those things at those areas, and we try to put people out to watch those. And it was successful. We also did a kind of a multi-jurisdictional. State Patrol came in and they saturated the city for 1 day with us. And I think we did like 80 or 90 tickets in the course of that day between us and them. A sheriff's department donated a couple officers. So that's kind of something we're going to hopefully do that. They kind of bounce around. State Patrol bounces around the state throughout the year, and they do one of these every month. And they were gracious enough to come and do it with us. And I'll try to get that again if we can get on their schedule to do that again. Otherwise, we'll continue to do our small saturation patrol on our end, in addition to any grants and stuff. So that's said. It helps the best we can, but it's just trying to work on a smaller level. Alderman Weigel.
Could you just give us an update on this negligent driving ticket, this extreme thing, and how many of those have qualified for that? Just go over that. I just want to remind people what it is and what we've been trying to do with that. Thanks.
Negligent operation of a vehicle is a $10,000 ticket that the city can give, and when you put the court cost onto it, it's about $12,000. You have to, as a motorist, endanger the safety of someone who is not on the roadway. And in our state, the roadway is defined as sidewalk to sidewalk. So think of a car doing 80, someone standing on the front yard, or a car that's doing 80, leaves the roadway, hits a house. So it's got to be really, really egregious conduct for us. Marcy, do you know from the monthly performance 6 in what time frame? So 6 of those were issued last year. When we check on them, as you would suspect, invariably the people that are willing to drive like that, it's typically going to be the result of a pursuit where they're fleeing from us, do not frequently have driver's licenses, do not frequently make future appearances in court. So the opportunity for the city to recoup the funds would actually occur through going through the state of Wisconsin state debt collection. So if someone would ever file a tax return and have a refund from the state, there is a program where local units of government can make a claim against that money and receive that money. So it has not been, we have not collected probably anything from the program, but we do keep issuing the ticket to hold people accountable to the best of our extent.
And when we do a pursuits or something like that, when it comes, all the pursuits ultimately come past me. So if I see one that looks like it qualifies, we get in contact with the commanding officer for that shift. They get in contact with the city attorney's office, and they evaluate it based on our squad cam and figure out if yes, does it qualify, and if so, we send off the ticket. And it's always been let's put it this way: I don't believe we've put one forward that hasn't met the criteria, because it's pretty specific. I mean, and like I said, they are usually tied. They're usually tied to a pursuit in one way, shape, or form. And understand that it has to be within the confines of the city of West Allis. So you can have, that's the other problem, is we may have some egregious behavior in a pursuit that happens outside of the city, We can't do anything with that, other than typically somebody now, at this point, is getting charged. So even if we don't write the big ticket, they're being sent downtown for second-degree recklessly endangering safety. They are going down and getting charged in district attorney in the DA's office with some sort of significant felony. That doesn't always get charged, but for the most part, if we're sending it down there, it's at least being seriously considered because of what we're seeing and what we've documented on squad cam, body cam, and things of that nature. So it's not like a freebie if they don't get it. There's usually some sort of penalty that's being put forward for somebody to review.
You'll see two common felonies in a pursuit. So fleeing in and of itself is a felony, pretty easy to prove. If we catch the driver, it's pretty easy to prove that. That gets charged with a high percentage of time. Second felony you would frequently see is, as he alluded to, recklessly endangering safety. So in addition to the driving, if it reaches extreme levels, you run a car off the roadway, you almost hit a pedestrian in a crosswalk, that is where we've had good luck with the DA charging that second felony of recklessly endangering safety.
Hi, on that topic, you said it goes statewide to collection agencies. Does it go nationwide or just statewide?
It's a state debt collection, so it's only to take state of Wisconsin tax refunds and give it to the local units of government that have a claim against the money.
So you go to Illinois and you're out of luck.
No, yep, correct.
Okay.
Or federal tax return, you'd be out of luck.
My real question was regarding you mentioned the luxury car heist. Was that started in West Allis? As well?
They've had several in the air, but we had one that did start at, and actually, I take it back. It started here. The pursuit started here.
Yeah.
They were stolen from, I believe,
Waukesha.
But Sergeant Corwin they'd gotten a call. They had seen a group of 5, I believe, luxury vehicles all running tandem at a very early hour on a Sunday morning. Not normal.
It was actually an alert citizen from West Allis saw all the cars at East Speedway. They did not have enough gas to get back to Illinois. So the citizen said, something doesn't look right here. A bunch of men wearing masks driving $80,000 to $90,000 cars. So
That's the gist of my question. One of the guys was Calvin Valentine. He was charged and convicted. He's serving 4 years in the state pen right now.
yep,
Anybody else? Well, first question, he was not charged with stolen auto. He was charged with driving, what's it called? Without the
Fleeing
owner's
and looting.
permission?
Yeah.
Is there a difference in these two terms?
there is. So they have the same penalties. One is operating auto without owner's consent, and the other is auto theft. Operating an auto without owner's consent is easier to prove. We get in a pursuit, you're driving the car, we catch you, and we can prove that the car is stolen. That's a pretty easy case to prove. Proving that you stole the car is way more fact set. Now, in this case, where they took it from a dealership, you could make the argument that the proof would be easier, but take a typical stolen auto. Let's say a car got stolen 2 days ago, we pursue it today. The probability that the person who stole it is the person driving it today, probably not high, and even if it was high, you'd have to prove it. The easier crime to prove with the same penalty is that you're driving a car that you know to be stolen.
I don't think this was charged as stolen, though. I could be wrong.
Yeah, that was all handled in Waukesha County, and some of that might be,
Okay, fair enough.
I don't want to speak for the DA, but it could be same penalty, this is way easier to prove, I know I'm going to get a conviction if I go this route, same penalty, harder to prove, I'm going to go this route. That could be behind it.
Final question on that. Maybe you don't know.
Yep.
But has anybody else been arrested in that chase out of the 5 drivers?
I only know from the news that Waukesha County charged more people. Now, I don't know if they were the other drivers or if because that was a stolen auto ring. It's what they do for a living. So I don't know if because it was their burglary, if they pieced together information and it was the people from our pursuit, or if it was different people that aided and abetted in that somehow. That part I don't know. You gotta stand closer to this mic if you're gonna talk.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Oh, is it on?
Yes,
It is.
My question is, I'm a mom, first and foremost. My question is, I know you guys patrol a lot of the school areas, but I know there has been a lot of incidents around like a lot of the high schools as far as like the traffic and things. What is your plan to improve that this year? To like prevent that from happening a lot? Because I saw that happen a lot last year with like a lot of kids who walk home or take the city bus home, where there was a lot of accidents and stuff that happened with the kids.
So we do traffic enforcement around the schools. We had one school in particular that we put an emphasis on because of repeated complaints of issues in the crosswalk. So as a general rule around school, yes, we do traffic. And then if we get specific information, we will specifically target that school. You go back over the last several years, different schools have had different issues. We'll go in, address it. It really depends where the school is located. So if you get a neighborhood school on a side street and they're having traffic problems, probably going to be the parents that are picking the kids up. So that is a much easier problem to educate or cite our way out of. If you are a school on a main street, think of West Allis Central, West Allis Hale, St. Paul's Lutheran, all along Lincoln Avenue. The problems there, it could be one person, could be a plumber on Monday who lives 10 miles away, could be a salesman on Tuesday who lives 13 miles away. It's harder, it's a harder issue when it's on a main street.
The biggest thing we try to do is try to deal with the schools and trying to work with the staff and with their administrators to get messages out to the parents. They're really usually pretty good about passing on, sending emails saying, hey, we're having problems with this issue. Please remember to park here. Please remember to drop off your kids here. A lot of the problems that are created around schools are specifically because the parents are violating the rules in which they are supposed to follow to ensure the safety of their own children. I apologize, I like to get out.
I'm glad you answered that because part two of my question is just the general safety of the kids. Because one of the things, my daughter goes to Hale. Prior to that, she was at SOW.
Yep.
And a lot of the issue was parent-teacher safety, parent-student safety.
So
So that was like leading into my second
I'll give you a great example on that. We're a pretty active city in planning for how do we keep our kids and teachers and parents safe in the school environment. An example of that, about 2 or 3 months ago, we were approached by a company, the Critical Response Group, that does mapping for schools. In the state of Wisconsin, almost every school has been mapped because the state offered grant funding to do it. This company is a company that does a lot, if not all of these maps. They offered to help us do a tabletop exercise on an active threat in a school. I put an email out to the chiefs of Milwaukee County, included fire chiefs on it, and school officials. So we ended up at West Allis Recreation Center with about 60, 70 people from law enforcement, public schools, private schools, fire departments, and the facilitator, who is a former Special Forces Marine, walked us through, okay, here's a map, here's a school, you have an active shooter, what do you do? And it was about a 2-hour-long event. We constantly think about it, have plans for it, train about it. I'll give you one example that our city does. Every squad car, including my squad car out in the parking lot, has a glossed document with a series of QR codes on it. Any phone can go to the QR code, scan it, you instantly have a map of the school. So if we get sent to an active threat, let's say at Hale, where your child is a student, any police officer responding to that can reach into their car, pull out the map, oh, there's Hale, hit a QR code, they now have a map. So if the call is, we have a problem in classroom 110, I have no clue where classroom 110 is. But this map, you know, within seconds, we're giving officers information so they now know where it is. They know what door. Our school district is great on marking doors. You drive by the front of Hale, I believe it's N5. So N for north and 5 for it's probably the 5th door in their numbering sequence. That map's gonna have the same thing. So if the problem's in classroom 110, the cop knows, okay, enter through door N5, and it's gonna be to your left. So we spent a lot of time internally. Officers at the beginning of the school year, and I don't know if we did it this year, first and second shift officers, we get them into the schools on a Saturday when there's no students around. They just go through on their shift, get familiar with the schools. So we do spend time and effort planning for what if something occurs, and we'll be ready to handle it if it does.
A new feature this year for us is every officer, every squad has a key card for every school building. So we can get in, we can access with one card all the schools, which for you should give you peace of mind that if the cops need to get inside the building, we can get into anywhere we need to go to get there faster.
And look at it logically. If there's an issue in that school, the employees are going to shelter in place. How are we getting in? You know, we're locked out. So we now have the ability to get in.
So we can get into, and that's all the schools.
Yep.
So that's the nice thing. That's a new feature for us. Before we had some squads or some cards available to us. Now every squad has a key. So if God forbid, there is a problem there, we should be able to address it as quickly as possible. Anyone else?
Yep. Registration is open right now for our next Community Police Academy. I just looked at the agenda today. Gina, help me, is it March? Yeah, so it starts in March and wraps up in September, October? 10 weeks. So we have applications available on our website. We usually get a pretty healthy number of people that apply. So please go to our website. It's just westalliswisconsin.gov. You can Google you can search for the police on our website. Takes you right to our homepage and it should be on there. Anything you want to add to that, Gina? Or Steve? Or Trevor? Trevor's retiring in like 2 weeks, so Trevor's ambivalent. All right. All right, I think that's it. So we can all go home and watch the Vikings lose.
Clearly, Mike's a Lieutenant Sitter's a Viking fan in his purple.
Thank you for joining us tonight. And we'll stick around if you have questions in face-to-face. Thank you.